You are probably chosen. Okay. And so what I always go back to, because the channel was started based on the trauma that I experienced, I always go back to conversations and topics regarding just trying to help people cope, because everyone is going through something, and is talking about a negative thing, something that is actually very harmful, is very hurtful, but in a positive way, because you don't have to let these things turn you. And she can turn you inside out and upside down and all the way around. But when you know who you are and what you are, when you understand, when you better understand some of the things that you've gone through and how maybe those things were meant to shape you, or maybe how you were meant to help shape someone else, then it helps evolve you. It's helped to evolve me. I'm not going to lie, when I first started going to therapy, it was counseling to start, and then it became therapy as I was going through some of the steps and processes during the counseling process by myself. It was supposed to have been marital counseling, and then it was like, I don't even know if this is even a real marriage. I'm just a child at that point, like 18 years old, literally, still in my teens. But we started to unlock those, and I'm glad I was by myself during the time, but we got to unlock some deeper rooted issues. And I thought I was going to go and be like, hey, he did this, I did this. Was I wrong for doing this? I was looking for a mediator, and I was turned around and redirected and refocused. I was realigned with what I needed to be focused on was myself. And that's how I started on the therapy road, the therapy route. And I recommend that for everyone, because you can think that you don't need help, but you actually may. You may. And depending on who you work for, how you can get therapy. Yeah, you can have therapy and start your road to healing, because it changes how you see yourself in the world. It also gives you an added layer, a very much needed layer of empathy, so that you can understand how some of the things that have happened to you and around you that negatively impacted you, how those things happened, how and why. And some people don't want to release the anger and the hatred and the sadness and the hurt and the sense of abandonment. But when you get older and you realize, well, dad or mom wasn't hardly ever here because they were out there busting their asses so that I could eat. Now I understand that. Or even if you had a mom or your mother or father, that they were absent, and then you get older and you're like, well, they was out there in them streets. Mom or dad was for the streets. When you dig even past that and see, well, what happened to them, that they were not able to focus on me as their child, or on me and my siblings as their children. What had they gone through in their childhoods that may have negatively impacted them and taken away their ability to show up for me in the way that I needed? These are the kinds of things that you can't make up. And I find just me being myself, I come in contact with a lot of people, because you attract a reflection of yourself, the good and the bad, your light and your shadow side. And all the things that people love about me, they also hate about me, because we may just be on different frequencies and different parts of our journey. And just for me to just be a reflection of what I've come through, and that I'm still standing, and I can talk about people that definitely let me down and abused me, but in a way that I love them, and that I completely understand how they did what they did and how I released it. It pisses people off. It pisses them off. Not everyone, but I'm just saying all of the people that turned into straight up enemies, frenemies, arch nemesis, they turned into that. And as I'm proceeding in my therapy, and I am prayerful and meditative, and I have these discussions with the ancestors, with myself. I regurgitate. I'm really psychoanalytical. So I'm constantly regurgitating and processing things consciously and subconsciously. But I try to see, well, what happened in this friendship or in this connection, whether it's personal, it can be a work relationship. It can be, hell, the relationship that I had with the waiter at a restaurant or a teller at a bank. We just have conversations, and I always try to see if there is ever a disconnect. I always try to see why. And it always comes back to a reflection. We were fine until I said this. And I thought that since we had this, and this in common, that we would hit it off. No, we're not going to hit it off, because something that they said, that I said to them, triggered the shit out of them, and I didn't even know it. And then the next thing you know, I'm looking up with the, what did I do? What the hell happened hands? And these are conversations and just things that I've had to process through by myself. A lot of the times, there's sometimes that I've said to people, many times over the years, I've said to people, hey, there must be a disconnect because your tone and the whole vibe between us has changed. The way you're talking to me has changed. Some of it, yes, this is why I talk about people lying on you. Because when that distance comes between you and someone, that maybe they're shaken just by you living your damn truth, just by you being you. For me, I was just being me. Those people couldn't substantiate why the vibe was different to coworkers that may have noticed the vibe switch up, family members, in the relationships whenever the significant others would be in-laws, people in our friendship circles, in my friendship circles, when I thought I had friendship circles. When those people were unable to substantiate why they all of a sudden couldn't stand me, like, oh, I can't stand that bitch, but they couldn't say honestly what the issue was, then they are forced to make up things. They make up things, and whenever those things are regurgitated to people who are completely on the outside of a situation, people can get really creative with the lie instead of just admitting, like, well, she actually didn't do shit to me, but I hate people like her. She gets on my nerves, and she doesn't understand. And they think that I have a lot of privilege and things that I don't have. And I talk about myself a lot because I don't want to call somebody else out. I don't want to speak someone else's truth or someone else's story. That's why I say I'm telling about myself. And if that resonates with you, then good. Maybe there's something about what I'm saying that can help you, because that definitely is the intention. There's a lot that I could say to completely out someone, and I consciously choose not to. It's the intention. We can all be saying the same thing, but it's why. I can use my truth and hurl it at someone or at a group of people and tear their asses up, set it on fire. But I don't want to do that. I want to talk to the people who may be feeling what I'm feeling, who may be about to become maleficent, and they don't have to. Like at this one place that I used to work, they hired me in a position that paid more than $30 an hour, right? And I had to get a security clearance. I had to go through their background check to get the security clearance. Well, by the time they finished with that security clearance check, background check, so I could get that clearance, that's months had passed. And so they filled that position, but then they gave me a lower paying position, right? Well, I didn't know that it was a lower paying position. They called me out of the blue while I was already stable. I had 2 other jobs and I was stable. This company calls me and was like, yeah, we got a position and it came open. And so you can, whenever you're ready, if you can turn in your stuff, then we can get you set up. Okay. And so I was like, cool, I'm in there. Without even getting all the details, I called the 2 part-time jobs. One job was with the state and the other job was through a huge hotel. I didn't even think about it. I jumped right in there. I put in my 2 weeks with those 2 jobs, and I went out to take that federal contract. And then right when I was ready to take that, another place that I had applied for way like 6 months ago, another federal contract, came through and was like, okay, we're ready. Your background check has come back, and now you can get your security clearance. And so I was like, okay, now I'm ready. But I already got this other job. And so anyway, I was trying to go with the one that had the higher salary that I initially applied for, like months and months before all of that. And they got me in there making more than $10 less than what I was initially hired for, with a completely different title, completely different job duties, and I was mad about it and I was disgruntled, but I was quiet about it. When people asked me how I felt about the job, I had nothing but positive things to say. And now the fact is that these things are no one's business. It's no one's business about exactly what happened or why what happened, which is why I was very careful about what I said when people asked me how I was progressing on the job, right? I'm testifying like, it's not exactly what I was hired for, but I'm adjusting and I actually like it. I'm losing weight because the other position that I was supposed to have would have had me very cushy sitting behind a desk. I could still wear my heels. I could still wear my dresses. All I had was dresses. But this other job required me to actually get some tennis shoes. It required me to get some pants and some t-shirts and things. And I was still dressy, like I was more than business professional. I mean, more than business casual. And it just pissed people off. It's almost like they would rather had seen me and heard me, observed me whining about it. It pissed them off that I'm still walking with my head high, and I'm like, I'm making it, and I'm slimming down, and I'm mastering this job. I wasn't taking the time to sham like everyone else, because like realistically, for an 8-hour shift, you could finish all of the work, all of the tasks that we would have in a day. You could finish it like in the first 2 or 3 hours of the day. I'm spacing mine out. I'm doing it. And I never missed any work or anything like that. But what ricocheted back to me, what came back to me is that you were just not a good fit for this job. You didn't move like everybody else. Yes, you did your job. Yes, you had good attendance. And I'm just saying, when people ask me about my previous employer, I even managed to talk about having lost a job in a way that I wasn't tearing anyone down. I was just saying, I'm just grateful to be here. And the lies ensued. And those lies come from people that were so insecure. They knew I wasn't supposed to be there, I guess, by their standard. And so people try to play God with my career. And I use that. That's just an example. I have a lifetime of examples of that exact thing happening in school, in church, in my family, in relationships, in friendship circles, in neighborhoods that I've lived in community organized activities. I'm very proactive. I did a lot of community building things and a lot of volunteering, and everywhere I go, that is a theme. And that's not everyone's story. That's not everyone's testimony. That's some of our testimonies. I'm not one to just call myself the chosen one or to say that I'm chosen, but there are certain criteria and there are certain aspects of the lives of chosen individuals. Jesus was a chosen one. Jesus was a chosen one. These are people who they move to the beat of their own drum, who they don't follow the crowd. They go against many grains. Side of my family that I got married. Okay, so fast forward, or technically it's a rewind. When I was in my early 20s, understanding that we were not working out, and I had moved out into my first apartment, my first place, away from my family, away from my ex-husband, just me and the children. And we lived in another state because I just kind of needed to know that I could do it by myself before I just ran home to the tribe of women. It's like a whole bunch of single women, and they're beautiful, strong, accomplished women in my family. But I needed to know within myself that I could do it by myself without the cush capturing in the net of the tribe. And I did prove that to myself. And yes, I stumbled many a times. But the whole point is that I was living in another state. And this is just like, long story short, it's going to be a little bit lengthy. So I'm just telling you right now. Okay, so I'm living in this other state. I was doing just fine, had my first actual big job away from a military installation, just me by myself on the economy in the United States. And my babies were toddlers. Now, I had been married for more than 2 years, or it was right at 2 years by the time we had our first child. And so we thought that, you can always think that you are ready for children, but then you learn that everyone has room to grow and you have things that you need to learn. And certainly if we got married at 18 and then we had my first child right after I turned 20, that was just like, that still was not enough time. But anyway, why did I say that? I'll come back to it just a second. Okay. And so my mother was living in another state. She wasn't living we were not living in the same area. Anyway, so she had petitioned me. She was like, so you proved it to yourself. You've been living in this other state. And I've had my share of adversity and was going through stuff on top of having just filed for the divorce. She's like, I want to see my grandchildren more. And so I moved to the state where she was, and she was living with this aunt that had this massive, this house was the shit. This house had like 5 or 6 bedrooms, 3 or 4 bathrooms, full bathrooms. Was that 3? 1, 2, 3. and a half, 3.5 bathrooms, 2 living areas. It was huge, more than enough room. And so she's like, you can come here and bring the babies. My babies were toddlers then. And she's like, you can bring the kids here. So I get there. I wasn't even there for maybe 2 months. And then she traveled back to our home state because her mother, my grandmother, had fallen ill. That was like in 2000, 2001. I was like, I was doing just fine in the state that I was in. I only came to this other state because you invited me to this state. While I was there, before I left, I was living with that aunt without my mother. I was with her sister. It was like it wasn't even a full year. I'm going to say maybe 6 to 8 months, if that. I don't even think I lasted there that long, because I just didn't agree with some of the ways that she thought that I should discipline my children. And then I had gotten into some rifts with people who I didn't know what the static was back then. This is what I'm saying. This is how you can know when people are talking shit about you. Another aunt approached me and was like, yeah, you a big ass mooch. You over here living on my sister. She didn't know. I'm like, maybe you didn't hear the story that I was invited to stay here. I never needed to stay here. And she was trying to treat me like if I said, okay, I'm going to go to the store and the kids are asleep. No, you take your kids to the store with you. Okay, well, no problem, because when I was living in another state for a couple of years by myself, there was no one watching my kids. I had no net. My children went with me to museums, to the library, to church. I took them to school with me. I was a college student also. I took them to school with me. I everywhere I went, my children went, and it was easy. But some people try to treat new mothers and they try to treat people like in their minds, having a child is like a death sentence and your life ceases to exist. Me having children enhanced my life. I never felt that they were a burden to me. I never saw them as a burden to me, ever. I never got tired of them. I never got frustrated and just needed a break from them. But I did not want to live under, it's like I'm a woman of my own right. And I only came here to be closer to family, not because I needed family. I wanted to be around them. I did love them. But I will say, because I had been away for a few years at that point, I had forgotten that they were some of the motivating factors to me eloping at 18. The aunt that tried to confront me, and even a couple of my younger cousins was like, what are you doing there? You just living with this one auntie? I was like, oh, she never told you that whenever I offered to give her money to cover the rent for me and my children to stay there, even though she had more than enough room and I was invited there, she never told you that I offered her money many a times that she turned down. That I offered to buy groceries, to put groceries in the house for my children, that she turned down many a times. And I was not getting child support from their father. Not trying to throw this man under the rug, because we were still married. He gave what he gave when he could give it. But the urgency to give me that assistance and that help with child support, it was a lot less urgent because I am with family, or I was with family. And so I wasn't tripping about that. I was like, okay, so there's nothing for me just to get another job, get another car, and figure my way out of this. And but I can't help. The whole point in this part of the story is the adversity and the extreme opposition and the passionate pleas, disrespectful ass pleas with me to explain why I was such a moocher. You're being fed information from someone who is not giving you the full truth, baby. I haven't asked anyone for anything. I need nothing from anyone. But some people, they need to see you in a position of servitude and of need and lack for them to feel superior. And I'm like, as a woman that I've had my own place already, maybe the woman of the house has a problem with seeing another woman who is capable of taking care of herself. I'm not a child. I've been someone's wife at that point. I have voted at that point. I have my own children at that point. So it's like, there's only so much that your instruction can go with me. So I thought that was the reason why I was getting the adversity. No, you're half-assed telling my story, and people were treating me according to what they were getting from that. Never went out to the club, nothing like that. I used to have a best friend that she came to visit me and she asked me to go out with her. It's maybe like once, literally once in the 6 to 8 months that I lived with this aunt. And we went out that one time and came right back. Like, other than that, we didn't have any, but people were talking and I just didn't know it. Anyway, so fast forward. So I left her place and I still stayed in that same state for like a year and a half, 2 years after that. I moved there like in 2001 and then I left there and moved back home to my home state and like in 2004. Stayed with my grandmother for like, I needed to be there for maybe 2 months, a month and a half, 2 months until my apartment was ready because I transferred and got another job and took another role. And do you know that what ricocheted back to me was that I was mooching on my grandmother. And I was like, hold on. Now, I just happened to come back to my home state, like on like a 3 or 4 day weekend, went to a job fair and got hired for a job that paid me more than what I was making in that other state, had excellent benefits that would have, definitely helped me and my children out. Still, that divorce had been dropped. It's just me and my children moving around. But the vibe between me and some of the family members has started to change. Now, because I'm on autopilot, I'm only focused on picking myself back up and taking care of me and my children away from the family. I missed all the shade that was coming to me. I was completely like, I'm not thinking about anyone's negative attitude. I'm only thinking about me and my children and staying out of people's way so that I wasn't a burden. My grandmother knew my plans. She knew that I had gotten hired. She knew that I had already found a place. That place wouldn't be ready for 2 months. And that was just fine because I would get 2 months of being on the job and saving up more money so then I could try to furnish my place. Tension started to rise and we started having conversations, not me and my grandmother, because grandmother was accepting my money. Grandmother wasn't taking care of me. It wasn't like what people was thinking. But when I think about the vibe between me and some of my aunties, Lord, me and some of my cousins, that people were trying to portray me as a mooch. And I'm like, in my entire adult life, you've done nothing for me to have your mouth on my name, but your mouth is on my name. They were calling me, because I went out with that best friend 3 times in my whole life. We only went out 3 times. Remember, I think I said it like over a year ago that I've gone out to the club maybe 6 to 8 times tops. 3 of those times was with that not best friend, right? That I thought we were friends. And it turns out that we're not. But I'm just saying, now that I'm older and my head is not so much on the grind, I'm looking back and I'm looking at those situations with more mature eyes, with a more discerning heart. My fork has been tuned a lot more. And now I know. I know for you to have approached me the way that you were approaching me, for you to have looked at me with the gaze that you put on me, you had other shit staring in your mind about me. And this is the truth. You can check this with a lot of people. People will start treating you a certain way just based on the words of other people that they trust. And I'm like, I don't know why you trust anything that this person over here says, because she's been a nosy, backstabbing, backbiting ass. You know what I mean? It's like, that your sister, cousin, auntie, brother, son, that these are busybody liars. And then the plot thickens even more. That some of my cousins started coming up to me whenever I'm just reaching out like a wellness check, like, hey, little cousin, I'm just trying to see how you're doing over here since you've graduated high school yourself. I'm like 5, 6 years ahead of you, right? So I just wanted to see if I could be of any assistance. And a lot of them, they needed money. These are things that I never told anybody in the family, that a lot of people were in my pockets, my little single mother broke pockets, okay? I'm very resourceful and I know how to take care of myself. I know how to get around. I was in what we call the Mariana Trench of single parenthood. And it was just really hard. You don't make enough money to sufficiently sustain yourself alone, but you make too much money to receive assistance from the state. That is where I was. It's such a hard spot. And I have a very tender spot for other single parents, male and female, that I figured that they might be finding themselves in that same predicament. Like I always had to have a job and a half, because I wasn't willing to not make or to only make like the cap of income just so that I could get housing, just so that I could get food stamps, just so that I could get TANF or SNAP. Now I think it's SNAP benefits. Like I have 3 children and I had to pay. There wasn't no DHS assistance with childcare. That's $160 or at the very minimum, $90 per child per week on a single income. That I was not consistently getting child support. I'm not saying that he never paid child support, but more so than not, he didn't. And I wasn't tripping about that either because I was working my ass off. So I didn't have time to get an attorney and to go to court and have child support revised and to, no, I'm taking care of myself. And people didn't know how I was making it. They thought that I heard rumors about myself. I heard that I was doing the worst, like that I was escorting and prostituting. I heard a lot of stuff about myself. And I'm just saying, all in the ignorance of people who didn't know. They didn't know my story. They didn't know what I was going through. They were looking at me and I appeared to be very well. I kept a decent car. I kept a nice roof over me and my children's head. I had an aunt that was very compassionate. She had furniture. I'm talking years of furniture that they would get furniture every 5 to 10 years. And so she had basically a small store in her garage. They had storage sheds full of furniture, and she was throwing her, hey, we ain't used this in a year. It's just been in the shed. If you want this, big, beautiful, quality, bulky, and I love bulky furniture. Oh my God. You give me an oversized couch and an oversized during this time that I'm going through these, I'm transitioning and I'm moving along. Life is lifing. I'm doing what I'm doing. Just more and more information. My cousins were coming up to me. One of my aunts approached me and was like, is it true that when you were living in the other state with your mom, and when your mom asked you to move to that state, that you had started trying to date your cousin's boyfriends? Now this cousin, mind you, is like, she's more than 4 or 5 years younger than me. And she was still in high school. And I was just like, first of all, I'm married, and the caliber of a man that would be interested in me should not be looking at her at all because she is not even 18 years old. And then once she turned 18, she is still my cousin. But bigger than everything that I just said, I would never. It doesn't matter if the guy's attracted to me or not. I would never. There are millions of men on this planet. And in my opinion, I'm not trying to shame people that do what they do because different strokes for different folks and whatever works for you, works for you. But for me, the world is just big enough that I never need to date anyone that a cousin, friend of me, ex-spouse, ex-boyfriend, teacher, like if I know that you are associated with someone in my immediate circle, or even in someone that in an acquaintance, in a coworker, off the top, I start to shut down. I'm not attracted to you. I don't want to be one of the ones that you ran through, not whether you did it on purpose or whether inadvertently I used to date so-and-so and now I'm dating her sister, cousin, auntie, niece, daughter, like that. I just feel like I move with a lot more, I'm a lot more conscious about my relationships and who I interact with and who I allow myself to be spiritually, sexually, mentally bound to. But that's not what was getting around about me. And it still isn't. And I'm like, well, people like to believe what they believe because they're like, if I look like her, I know what I would be doing, because some people are ugly as hell, living the life of like, you're a professional escort. Not dissing the escorts because you do what you do for money. You do what you do because that's your preference. But don't pan your reality on someone that's not my reality. That wasn't my decision. It's hard for some people to believe that I was taking care of myself for all this time that I have, that I never pressed either of the ex-husbands to ask. Anyway, so for people who do not know me, people who try to say that since they have a recollection of me going out with the ex-best friend, that they, in their minds, I was a woman of the night. And then it made me think back to, I had a couple of aunts that people was like, yeah, when she was younger, she was wild. She was in them streets when she was younger. Some people even said, she was she's a hoe. These women were hoes. They were labeled because they had a social life that other people who did not have, they were not socially inclined. They were not social butterflies. They only went to work and went home. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because that's what I do. I don't have a problem with that. But because these women were, when they stood in their feminine power, man, these women were dynamite. They were absolutely beautiful. It was assumed that they had a conveyor belt of men coming in and out of their houses. These women were workaholics. They were single mothers. They had both been married. They ended up single mothers for whatever reason that they did. They were single. They were single mothers, and they were relying on the help and the assistance of family. And I know a lot of people like that, even outside of our family, that people like to slap titles on people you don't even know. You don't know this person. You don't know their whole story. Just because you heard that they went out to a club doesn't mean that they're giving it up. Doesn't mean that they're doing stuff. And even if they were, that's none of your business. That's nobody's business. But people were labeling, and they still do. I still hear rumors about myself. Like I haven't even talked to my family, and I don't know how long. But every time I come around, I get the latest. Like, so is this true? Because I heard X, Y, and Z. And it made me wonder, like, how are you hearing anything about me when I don't talk to anybody? I go to work, and when I get home, my time is dedicated to my children, to my mother, to my sisters, my father, whenever we're talking. I'm not on the phone for hours with girlfriends, homeboys. I'm all about nurturing my household, nurturing my family, nurturing myself. And maybe you wouldn't know that just looking at me, but at the same time, whose business is it? And that's what I'm saying. People speculate and they say things. I knew that something was going around when coworkers at the job that I was talking about 10 minutes ago, when the coworkers were asking me, so what do you do whenever you're not at work? They're talking about dating sites. They're talking about going to lounges and pubs and hangout spots. Sometimes they go to clubs and parties. I'm not with any of that. I don't do any of that with anyone. And I don't condemn people that do, but don't condemn some of us, those of us who don't. That family has always been a big deal. And I'm happy with my family. Anyway, so I'm going to break off of that for just a minute because I did feel myself getting a little bit emotional. I did. But just another example, and I use myself as the example. Because again, I have met people who are exactly where I used to be, who are exactly where I'm at. When people see that it is not exactly what they thought it was about you, where they should be relieved, like, okay, so she's not a mindless imbecile. She's not a moocher. Oh, she actually works and she keeps a job. Even if she gets fired, she gets another job just like that. Oh, she got repossessed. And in the same week she got a repossession, she flipped and got another car. Yeah, her nasty ass is doing something. I'm telling you, I have heard it. I have heard it and I have seen it. And when there are people who might not know the truth, there's always someone. We all have watchers. There's an audience everywhere. There are a lot of people who did know the truth and never spoke up on it. People who tried to say that I was crazy. Literally, like, she is mental. I'm mental, but I vote like you. I'm mental, but I pay taxes like you. I'm mental, but I got and keep a job just like you. I'm mental, but I got a car and I pay my bills just like you. I run a household and run a household by myself just like you. I've been married just like you are or were. I managed a household just like you, but I'm mental. I'm crazy. And baby, when I came down with the virus, that half the world got, more than half the world got this virus in the mid 2000s. When I finally had my first bout with anxiety, that just substantiated the rumors that I'm off, I'm crazy. I've been a federal employee. I've been a state employee. I work for several major corporations, and I'm mental. I managed to go through severe adversity. I faced a lot of adversity with integrity that my ops ain't even seen in their lifetimes, never tearing anybody down, but I was deemed as mental. These are things that ricochet back to me. I am a fierce protector. I am a truth speaker. I'm a truth seeker and truth speaker. And it's a skill to expose the truth and not name a single name, to not name the actual agency or organization, to not name any of the actual people that were directly responsible for my condition. But I'm crazy. I'm off. There's something that's off about me. So yes, when I see and meet other people and they are attracted to me, it's like they don't even know what the connection is. I'm like, I feel very touched by an angel sometimes. Like, if you are in my space, it's my turn. Your experience has whatever conditions in your life, the series of events, Lemony Snicket's series of unfortunate events that landed us in the same atmosphere, in the same vicinity of one another. I take my turn very seriously. I don't go looking for anything, but I check how I show up to people and how they show up with me. What are we talking about? You think it's a coincidence that you are in a relationship that you are grossly unhappy with and dissatisfied with, and you are talking about, well, if he don't want to give me no attention, I'm going to go out there and just get me another man. If you're expressing that to me, I could say, well, hey, you do whatever you want to do, whatever floats your boat. Or I can say, hey, if you're not happy, why aren't you taking the steps to change that situation? Have you considered counseling? Have you considered that? If not, do you go to church? Is there anyone that can bring another perspective, that can mediate the situation between you and your spouse, or you and your boyfriend, you and your girlfriend, you and your wife, you and your husband, you and your children? You're going through something. You're sharing it with me. I'm conscious about what I give to people. I'm conscious of that. People can fake and act nice all they want to. They put up a facade, and there are a lot of people that look like they're well-meaning and they just as evil and rotten on the inside. I'm saying what you get in these conversations, that's the reflection of who and what you're actually dealing with. And when I had the opportunity to not only defend myself because I was being defamed, I am and was and am being defamed in several aspects of my life in several circles. I'm not even gonna come to you defending like what I know someone else is saying about me. This conversation is about what it's about. We're talking about this job. We're talking about this family member. We're talking about you and your situation. I could have also, like my op, I could have taken that time to tear the other person down and completely expose why they are really acting like they're acting, very suck-tittish. I could have done that. I can do that. I choose not to. I'm not about to validate what people are already trying to say about me, because I'm not like that. That's about the extent of my defense. I'm not willing to do anything other than be myself and encourage others to. When I meet them and they have a story that they want to share, or an observation about me that they inquire about. Well, it seems this and this, or I heard this and this. What is it really? I've had employers that, I'm talking flip on a dime, that start to just treat me like straight up garbage. I'm like, I don't know what you would have had to hear about me for you to start behaving the way that you're behaving. Family members, elders even, that we've had a great rapport. We've had a good relationship my whole life, some of these people. That all of a sudden the vibe changes. Without any input, any feedback. There have been no incidences between me and this person, or me and anyone that they know personally, and the vibe changes. It's like that's kind of how I knew. Like a family that I met, again, a bunch of women attached to a guy that I had been dating, and these women loved me. Man, they embraced me. Several of them gave me their numbers, and then as me and this guy got more and more serious, then they switched it up. Now, if we haven't spent any time together, other than whenever I was with them and their family member, a guy that I was dating. The switch up, they're hearing and getting feedback and rumors about me from somewhere that has nothing to do with my experience with them. Looking back, whenever I talk to other people who kind of express similarly that's their experience, that they have gone through that, ask yourself the question, what is the common denominator? Who do you know that they know that could have tainted your reputation? That could have said something about you that changed their minds about you? Which that in and of itself is ignorant as shit and terribly, grossly unfair to you. But just think where the taint would have come from. I mean, it's different now. If you're one of those people that you know that you are messing in your own yard, eating and playing around, and the playground is where you sleep and eat at, then I mean, you should expect that to happen. But if you haven't done anything wrong, you move with high integrity, high moral fiber, and the cards start to fall down around you. Yeah, there's definitely some interference. It's interference, and you get to choose if you want to ignore those red flags and those signs that something has changed, or if you want to move, because I got to the point where I just move around. I'm going to let you think whatever you think. And you want to cast me out and start not only excluding me and shunning me, but if you make the mistake of trying to in any way take a dump on me, for me, it's enough just that you've lost out on a solid connection with me, because I'm someone that I would never, ever have betrayed you, betrayed your trust, that I never would have slid you under a bus. I would only have given you the best parts of myself. You could have had a solid friendship or a solid connection with me. I can be an ally to you, an asset to you at work, in our family, in this friendship circle, in this environment. And it's not for me to be concerned about that you just lost one. That's enough for me. In my opinion, that is the real judgment. That's if hell is a real place, that is the real bed of it. That's where the bed is made at, because there's so many people that talk about connections that they've lost without talking about how those connections were changed and how the mix-up came about. Whatever the disconnect is at the moment that it happened, girl, she just switched up, forget it, I don't even care. Girl, yeah, because she was blah. No. Like, how old are we? But I mean, I've been moving like this since I was really my whole life. Like, do you know how to dance? So you think you can dance? What would I have had to have gone through for me to be able to show up like this and to share this with people? And this is why I do it. This is why I do. Because I don't want you to take an experience that you're having with someone that can totally rearrange you, can totally make you change your outlook on life, your outlook on yourself, and how you can show up, how you should be showing up. It's a choice. And once I share stories like this with people and they get to see, well, I can understand how that happened, man, that's unfortunate. It's like you almost can't even be mad about it. You go with the curve and evolve as these things happen to you and around you. Man, you care for the people that allow you and reciprocate and appreciate. They're receptive to what you put out. And the people who find a reason to discard you, they find a reason to smear you, allow them to do that. Leave them with the memory of you and your humility. Leave them with the memory of you standing very strongly in your integrity. That it didn't take you tearing someone down to defend something about yourself or about a situation that really had nothing to do with you. It doesn't. Someone else's opinion of you is their opinion, and that is their business, not yours. But if they bring it to you, then yeah, talk about it. Shed light on it. But if they didn't do you the justice and give you the fair chance of a fair trial before they executed and punished you, man, good riddance. Good riddance. There's not been a job to date that I felt sorry about walking away from or being kicked out of after being mistreated. I wasn't robbing you on your time clock. I wasn't stealing. This one place, I needed a break from a certain aspect of my job. So for me, and legally, it would be considered a reasonable accommodation for an employee that I'm saying, I I know that the doctor can say that I can be off of work because I've just come through two very traumatic events and I was experiencing workplace hostility. I was traumatized. I was going through some stuff, and this is after 2020 when I had a certain virus. When I had a certain virus, and it triggered anxiety. I had never had anxiety in my life. It only comes intermittently now. It has to be triggered by certain things. But again, as I'm healing, then that I see less and less. It rears its face less and less with no medications. So anyway, I had come through something really, really traumatic, and for me to come back to work, I needed to be released by a doctor. And so this particular job, they were like, well, you can come back to work when you get a note from your doctor saying you can come back to work. And I was like, I need the doctor to say that I'm okay. I'm telling you that I'm okay. The doctor hasn't even seen me in this case. I'm out because I'm living in my trauma and I'm processing it on my own. I'm not quick to run to the doctor in the first place. I'm very holistic. I don't take medications. I'm hard pressed to take when the doctor prescribes just any of the narcotic prescriptions. I'm weak as hell. I can't even tolerate that. So I'm taking everything over the counter. But I'm just saying, if that's how I am about painkillers, for the little ailments that I have with painkillers, it is. I'm not going to take a medication that can treat something that if I just change my diet and I change the people that trigger those feelings and thoughts, those emotions that they trigger my nervous system, that causes me to hyperventilate, that causes me to stutter, that causes me to all of the symptoms of anxiety that can come out if I just change my environment, then I don't need medication. And I believe that for a lot of people. Not trying to tell you what to do or to diagnose anyone here. I'm just saying, you can heal yourself holistically and you can heal yourself spiritually when you become more conscious about your diet and what you are consuming, when you become more conscious about the circles of people that you allow around you, the circles and cycles of people, those friends/frenemies, those family members that secretly hate you, envy you, loathe you for shit that you ain't even been in each other's space since you were children. My family hasn't seen me. We may have a family function once every 2 or 3 years, and then they get to see me and lay their eyes on me in person. No one has spent a substantial amount of time with me since before I was 18 years old. You would be surprised at all the shit that I hear. They're childhood friends. Now I know that they're frenemies. We have not been in each other's space. I'm going to say for most of them, I can say since I was 18. For a select few, we really haven't been in each other's, not even like spent more than a dinner date or a brunch date, more than me coming over to one person's house or two people's houses for maybe 3 or 4 hours. And maybe 2 or 3 times over some years. But people have a lot to say. There's a lot of speculation. For a younger version of Teneca, I'm telling you, I spent a lot of time just like, what is happening? Why does it look like this? Why does she say it like that? What does she mean by that? Or what did he mean by that? I spent a lot of time really trying to not going to those people, but just processing what happened, what could have happened. I don't care today. I don't care because when I had an issue with her and him and her and him, I went to her and him and her and him and said, hey, something's different and I don't know why. Do you want to talk about it? Because I see it and I feel it. And I value our friendship. I value you. I love you. I care about you. I don't want this to come between us. When I was in a relationship with the man that was he learned and I learned, or it was revealed that he was undecided in his sexuality when he wasn't performing. And I wanted to know, why aren't you? As I know what I got and what I am. And if you suddenly are not attracted to it, I get it. I'm saying maybe you have some dysfunction. Maybe you're just not attracted to me anymore. Maybe you have a preference. It's something else that you like. I just want to talk about it and bring it out in the open. I don't want to have the tension between us. Most people don't move like that. They react. They react, not respond. They react and leave someone else brokenhearted. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Like, I knew that this was going to be a long message, a long recording. Now, I don't know how long it is right now. I'm probably at maybe 20 or 30 minutes, maybe even longer than that. but it's important to me. I do visit back because some people ask me, like, why do you talk about it? You just leave the past in the past. First of all, these are cycles, and people that know better, you know that these are cycles. That means that it's a repeat. It's another version of what happened then and what happened in that situation, and you've already been through this. And so what is it that you didn't get from before, or what can you take from this so that maybe the next time something similar goes down, then you know how to move to the beat. Okay, I just got really hot. That's because I'm very emotional right now. I'm hot. Just a second. Okay, trusty fan. When we're talking about anxiety, I like to talk about that also, because anxiety has many faces. Many faces. I've experienced uncontrollable giggling and laughing. That has happened so many times. It's so ill-timed. When it happens, it's like, this is not an environment where I should have a smile on my face at all. I'm talking laughing like I'm at a comedy show. It's a nervous mechanism. It's triggered by anxiety. When I start sweating profusely, yes, I'm menopausal sometimes. I'm past the age of that. So that does happen sometimes, but for the most part, it's triggered by anxiety. When I drive everywhere I go, but then sometimes I come to a bridge that I've crossed many times, and I get that pinch in my chest that says, get off of this and just go around. I listen to it. I'm still going to make my destination. I'm still going to make the appointment. I'll still make it on time. I don't mind. I'll go around, and sometimes I try to stand up to it, and I'll go ahead and cross that bridge. I'll go right over that bridge. But I'm just saying, that's because I'm conscious of what it really is, what's really going on. Stuttering. I've started stuttering sometimes. That happens. These are all things that people can experience if you've ever experienced any level of anxiety. And if you're not working through those things that cause the anxiety, man, just bless you. I'm so sorry that you're experiencing that. To be in a heightened state of awareness or have a heightened state of fear, that sometimes is unprovoked. There are different things that trigger anxiety. And if you're not doing any of the work to heal it, man, it can be an impossible place to exist within yourself. And so that's another reason why I share what I share and the way that I share it. We choose how we show up and how we heal. Okay, and so now it's almost 9 o'clock at night, and I want to spend some time with my daughter. I want to watch something on TV. I had decided to start working out. It's not a New Year resolution. It's nothing like that. But I've already started. I've already been doing it for the last 2 days. But I kind of want to keep to that. So, and it feels good. If you have, anyway, okay. It's a conscious rant. So, and it's all tied to the same topic. And I don't mean the topic being me. It's all connected though. So if I can just encourage you with my testimony, if I can encourage you with my past experiences, with my truth, that's all that I mean to do, to encourage you and to inspire you, maybe to make a change, maybe to reevaluate yourself. For people that may have questions about me, but they never came to me to ask me any questions. If you think that you are being surveilled, if you think that, all eyes are on you, if you think that someone went as far as to put a camera in your car, in your apartment, if you feel, it doesn't necessarily mean that those things are true. It doesn't mean that those things are not true. It means that there's a heightened sense of awareness. Did you know that that is a spiritual gift? It's a gift Don't be reckless with it. Do your homework. Look at yourself. Look at the situations. Look at everyone involved and see what you can decipher with the highest part of yourself. Be the mediator between you and someone else silently. If you're being fair, if you're being unbiased to your side. Okay, I'm going to stop, okay? That's why I call it a conscious rant, because I'm abundant with information like that. I'm abundant with the intention to help. So it comes out in one of my future videos. I'm not even going to go there. Okay. Thank you so much for listening to me, for joining me here. Please like, share, and subscribe. I don't hardly ever say that. I put it in the videos, but I don't say it. But I do appreciate the views. I do appreciate the feedback when I get it. Most of the feedback actually comes from people that I actually know, and then people find me on other platforms and we have a whole conversations. But anyway, thank you. Okay, bye. It's Teneca. Okay, so when I was editing, I cut this part out, so I just wanted to go back over. What the f? Okay, so I was in the editing stages of the project, and I realized, that I had cut out this part, like accidentally deleted it, so it's going into nothing because of the app that I'm using to record it. I didn't capture it, and I thought that I did. But anyway, that company that I'm talking about, after those traumas, when I came back to work, I needed for the doctor to release me without any restrictions. And in those restrictions, I didn't feel like I needed the restrictions. I was like, I can go back to work. I need an accommodation. So I guess that would be restrictions. Whatever. But the doctor felt like this is something that your company should be able to accommodate you with. If you're willing to go back to work and you're willing to give it a try, but you're just saying in some environments when it gets really, really stressful, since your trauma is so recent, as long as you're willing to try, they should be willing to have you. If you don't want to be off of work, I'm not going to write you off of work. And I was like, no, because I can do all of the rest of my duties. Just when people have these escalated calls as a lead or a supervisor or whatever my title was during that time, I'm just saying that there may be some times if I'm having a bad day with my struggle with anxiety, as I'm still new to it, then I might need a little bit more time. It doesn't mean that I'll put it off. And back then I think we had like 48 hours to return the call as a supervisor or as a lead. And my job didn't want to work with that. My job tried to force me into FMLA. This is a federal act. It's a federal act. And I feel like that should be there to protect people that truly need it. I shouldn't have needed that. And that I was trying to petition the doctor to sign documents at two different jobs, because at two different doctor's offices for at one doctor's office for two different jobs, that cast the illusion that I was trying to get out of work. Never mind that I bent over backwards for this company for so long, okay? For a very long time, that I dedicated myself to learning their rules, their regulations, their structure, their way, their culture, to grow some of the employees to excellence, to nurture a team, to nurture I was an outstanding employee. And to be discarded, because that's one of the whistles that was blown. That I spoke up and said, hold on, there are people that really do need to be off of work. They need to be at home. I'm here. I'm not saying that I have this issue every day. I'm saying on the days that I do have it, and I was like, I expect you to cover me because I deserve that. I've earned that. Well, to protect your position, we can't protect your position without FMLA. Despite me having seen them protect others' positions without them having been on FMLA, and which meant that they didn't have to burn through all of their leave time just to utilize FMLA. I burned through over 250 hours as they kept me off of work because they wanted this doctor to put me on FMLA. And I'm like, I want to say, like, there were so many people in other departments that it was just a gross abuse of a policy and of that act, in my opinion. And when I spoke up on that, along with other things that were just extremely unethical, I received the most harshest, terrible backlash with no justification. And I'm just saying, a lot of that was spun on the words of people who were already envious. They were already inept themselves. I couldn't say that it was racial discrimination. I couldn't even specify the type of discrimination that I was under. What it really was is my reputation had already been smeared, and I didn't even know it, by people who were silently competing with me in the workplace that looked just like me. This is heavy adversity that I could have chosen to come out the scarred animal, or like the evolved being that I am. I more fully see people like that. I see their intentions. I see some of the reasons why they move like they move. My job is not really to assess them. My job is me, and how I show up, what I choose to do to respond. And there are a lot of people who witnessed what happened to me, that they never came to me and said anything. And then there are some that they couldn't bite their tongue. Some people quit. Some people, they were outraged because my reputation and my character speaks for itself. I had already laid many seeds just in how I showed up. And that's what I want to encourage others to do. Okay, I'm going to insert this back to the part of this that I accidentally deleted. Okay, bye. You are probably chosen because those people had an opportunity to do something, just to do the right thing or to leave you alone, and they missed their opportunity to do the right thing. It is hard to be in that position. It is really hard to be in that position. I'm going to stop right there. Okay, I'm done.